views and opinions expressed on Explorers Secrets of the Truth or that of their guests or contributors are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. All information on Explorers Secrets of the Truth is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of any information on this talk show or website.
From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good evening and welcome to Explorers Secrets of the Truth, episode 62, the Halloween After Party.
Oh yeah.
Tonight, as always, I'm joined by my best friend and co-host, Les Sienkiewicz. How are you doing this evening, Les?
Fantastic. It is the night of my favorite day of the year, Halloween, and we're here after a long night of running around town with the kids trying to get as much candy as humanly possible. There is no other way that I would rather wind down the evening than the Halloween after party with my best friend. And how are you doing this Halloween evening, Mr. Chad Charlesworth?
Not too bad. Doing pretty good.
That's good.
So, you want to tell them where they can reach us?
Yes, you can reach us. We broadcast live on both Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully, YouTube doesn't kick us out again because we've been having issues with that. So you could comment live on either platform underneath the show, and it should populate through the interface that we have here, and we'll be able to answer any of your questions or anything like that. OSSC just says hello, buddy. See, we got some comments coming in. Happy Halloween to you. So yeah, you can message us on Facebook and YouTube. We're on X at Explorers Group. You could visit our website at explorersgroup.com. Really reach out to us anyway, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
So can we finally just say X instead of X, formerly known as Twitter?
Yeah, I just call it X now. I think people know by now.
Yeah, their emails even still say X, formerly known as Twitter. Like, okay. Don't really
I think people get it. I think people get it.
But so tonight it's a little bit different from our normal format as, we finish up our Halloween celebration, and we thought, who better to spend the closing hours of today with but you guys. So, tonight we're going to talk about werewolves.
Werewolf.
What?
Their wolf. Their castle.
Why are you talking like that?
I thought you wanted to.
No, I don't want to.
Okay, suit yourself. I'm easy. Where is it?
Too dark.
Where's the thunder? Bring it on.
It's too dark to see in the damn room.
Oh, Mandy says, where are our costumes? These are our costumes.
There, it's late, but it's there.
Yeah, there we got the thunder. For those who don't know, that intro was from Young Frankenstein. The Lexer. Yeah.
Yes, and we are your bit players for the evening.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, as Chad said, we are going to be talking about werewolves as part of our show tonight. So, we're going to start with a little bit of lycanthropic folklore or werewolf folklore. And we're going to start with some Scottish folklore. We're going to be talking about the Scottish wolver. And unlike the French loup-garou, which is a very common creature in what is it, Louisiana and parts of the South in America, the American South. But not all werewolves terrorize humans giving into their bloodlust. The Scottish wolver of the Shetland Islands, just north of the Scottish mainland, is a benevolent werewolf, if you could believe that. The wolver was thought by the ancient Celts to be its own species between man and a wolf. How about that?
Yeah. So, folklorist James Saxby wrote extensively about the wolver, and basically wrote that it was described as being covered with short brown hair with the body of a man but the head of a wolf, which is unlike the typical werewolf. The wolver could not shapeshift and was considered to be gentle and kind-hearted.
Yes, the wolver was also solitary, which I guess most of the werewolf legends or whatever are pretty much solitary. It's not like they run in wolven packs or anything like that, unless you watch Underworld, which is a great movie, by the way. The Lycans had their own pack. But they're solitary, and they live in caves dug out from the hillside. And unlike its Western European cousin, it wasn't aggressive as long as it was left alone. But when it did interact with people, it's known to be generous and helpful, which is kind of odd for a werewolf-like creature, and particularly to those who were lost, guiding travelers to nearby villages and towns, which is quite helpful.
Yeah. And they were often seen fishing from a small rock deep in the water, which it was known as Wolverston or Wolfstone. And the wolver was also known to leave a supply of fish on the windowsills of poor families.
That is a very generous werewolf, I tell you what. But it's been speculated that the wolver folklore may be based on a medical condition like hypertrichosis or werewolf syndrome, and characterized by excessive hair covering the entire body, which there's a lot of those cases in South America. Like most of the hypertrichosis cases that you see today are Latin America, or not Latin America. Well, yeah, I guess like down south, like Mexico, South America, India.
South
I think there's
America.
India has a few cases as well, which India also has a lot of cases of the people with multiple appendages, which kind of mirror some of their gods, but that's a whole other topic. But another belief is that the wolver is an immortal spirit protecting and watching over the lost and poor of the Shetland Islands, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, variation on the, typical werewolf that we're kind of, raised on the whole wolfman, like you said, underworld, these bloodthirsty monsters. Do you ever see the Dog Soldier? The British.
Actually, no.
Oh, that's a great. I'm thinking it's Dog Soldier. It's like
I think you're right. I heard the name, but I've never seen the movie.
Well worth watching. I mean, not to get into our slappy and wappy routine here, but a very good movie, very interesting werewolf story. Good like special effects and all that too to it. So now we get to kind of look at. It kind of fits the story, but doesn't kind of fit necessarily the Wolver narrative. But one of my favorite subjects is the 9th Roman Legion, or as most people know them as the Lost Legion from the movie The Eagle. Anybody knows that movie with Channing Tatum?
No.
A great book. And Channing Tatum's in the movie. It's not a bad movie even. But so this is how the 9th was really lost, or just some great folklore stories of the Picts, or domination, or which means condemnation of memory or report, memoria. Yeah, I was doing Latin research for this show, okay?
Got a little tongue twisted.
Yeah, well, you start throwing in extra Latin, and it's just... So we're going back to about 120 AD, and this is allegedly written by Titus Eurus, who's of the Legio Ninth Hispania. In the third year of Hadrian's reign, which would about, I think, around 117, 118,
Mhm.
he writes this, allegedly writes this story. This will probably be my last papyrus entry in my diary. Our legion was ambushed in the wild realms called the Caledonian Forest and was almost completely annihilated. Half of my first cohort is all that is left of the Ninth Legion. We were pushed into the marshes and we will probably die here, fighting bravely to the end in the name of Rome and the Emperor. We were attacked by a demonic pack of barbaric Picts. Yeah, always throw that out there. Sorry, I did. I got off subject there. They looked more like wild beasts than human. Some of them were dressed in animal furs, painted with strange runic signs. Others seemed to be two-legged wild beasts. They tore us apart as if we were made of paper. I saw our legatus and my brother in arms being eaten alive. I will never forget their screams. The barbarians attacked us unnoticed, quickly and with wild fury, then disappeared into the fog. Mainly at night, our shields, swords, and armor were no use. The enemy we face seems to be the ancient wrath of some dark gods we have awakened. We should never invade these lands. I hear demonic howls. They're coming. They're coming.
That is quite interesting. That's chilling, actually. But that scrap of papyrus written on by the centurion Titus Eurus or Ursus, found in October, what'd you say, like 117, 118, 120 AD in the Caledonian Forest, taken to Rome, where it was presented to the emperor and then burned. 2 years later, the Emperor Hadrian ordered the construction of a wall on the border of that land called the Caledonia in northern Britannia. And here I actually found
Did you find the illustration?
Yeah, I think it's the right one by Jacob Rizalski. Let me show it here. I couldn't find a good horizontal one, but this is kind of like the legions facing off against these demonic, hairy, two-legged barbarian creatures, which obviously clearly are depicted as like werewolf-like, but that would be quite an imposing army to be faced against, and I would think it would be very difficult to fight that off. That would be terrifying. But the artwork is fantastic. I've seen quite a few of his paintings and stuff like that, and they're all kind of like the shepherd dog in the field, where there's one of the werewolves in the background. The shepherd dog is between the flock, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
But
now, I mean, if you know anything about the Ninth Roman Legion, this is probably not the true story of how they were lost.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that they were still in Britannia and Caledonia into the 120s. They were lost sometime around 120. Parts of them were in the Netherlands at that point. So they the Romans kept such great records that it's so odd that these even the three legions that they lose in the Teutoburg Forest, everything is still recorded about them.
Right.
Like them being lost, and who was the commanders, who was all the roles inside the unit were logged, and they weren't destroyed, even though they were in Domination Memoriam, which is basically where they strike you from all the records.
Yeah.
The writers kept that, and even the emperor kept, basically because Varus drove him nuts because of the fact that he lost 3 legions of Roman soldiers to a Germanic tribe in the middle of the Teutoburg Forest, which was also a lost battlefield.
Yeah.
Yet they're still known. The ninth Hispaniola, it's there's two different versions of the ninth. The first ninth was disbanded, then 2 years later reformed with soldiers from the original ninth. They're in Britannia, they're in the Netherlands, but there's no record of what happened to them.
Mhm.
And since they were such a prestigious unit, they would have constantly been resupplied with fresh troops.
Yeah.
And even if they would have been combined with another legion, they would have taken the ninth. Say if they were combined with the 15th Legion,
Mhm.
the 15th would have just became the ninth. So they were lost somewhere between then and Marcus Aurelius's writings.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting. I mean, if you're into just um, historical conspiracy type stuff,
Mhm.
there's so many different routes you go with that. But this, I thought the whole werewolf of in Britain, well, in Caledonia, and basically Scotland. Of course, the Picts. Um, the Romans had not a nice thing to ever say about them. They were
Mhm.
barbarians. They were this. They were that. They just kept being Rome. That was their only problem.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, wasn't it the berserkers and they were in the Viking folklore and stuff like that, where they would dress up in the hides and stuff like that of the different animals that they felt they were invoking the spirit of, and they would then transform themselves into said
Yeah.
creatures and go into battle, and they'd
Yeah.
almost be in a trance. Yeah, so it's kind of the same concept. But I see
Yeah.
my friend Ryan there is tuning in. He's in the chat. I actually saw Ryan tonight on my route through town trick or treating. So I see that me guilting him into listening to the show worked. I'm glad to see you here, buddy. And they both say that that movie, the Dog Soldier movie was a great movie. And OS says Werewolves of London was another great movie, which very true, very true.
Yeah. I just didn't like Werewolves of Paris as much.
I don't remember seeing that one. Actually, I was getting the girls into some of the old Universal, like the old school from the 30s and 40s horror monster movies. They were actually enjoying it. I enjoyed it too. It was a lot of fun. So
Universal is trying to restart that whole dark universe with like the
Mhm.
Mummy,
Mhm.
Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and stuff like that.
And Anthony Hopkins, that was great. I actually loved that movie.
That was his classic. I mean, yes, it did have more of the modern like CGI and special effects,
Yeah.
but that was the old. It is just scary and
Mhm.
creepy because it is scary and creepy, not because there's something about to jump out at you.
Right.
Like
Yeah. No,
the
I
fog,
I
the
loved it.
weather, the environment just that's what made those old ones creepy was
Mhm.
just that environment induced like the whole like you start like looking around the room when you're watching it like, oh, did I hear a creak? Did I hear,
Yeah.
now
Really,
it's like so
it's so
you gotta
overdone.
you gotta have 19 jump scares within 3 minutes to get people like interested.
Yep, and it's so horribly overdone with CGI. It's almost
Yeah.
too fake, you know. And it's
Yeah.
funny. We were watching The Wolf Man from, I think it was 1938, and I never realized that Bela Lugosi played the gypsy guy. So it was kind of like you had Dracula in the werewolf movie, which I thought was
Mhm.
pretty interesting. And then we watched Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which was cool because
Yeah.
it had Bela Lugosi as Dracula and uh,
Lon Chaney.
Lon Chaney as the werewolf, and the Frankenstein, obviously. So it was cool. And actually, I was laughing a lot throughout that movie. I forgot how funny they really were, and they were just so, I don't know, just so innocent, and it was just great to watch those old
Oh yeah.
movies.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the classic Universal monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, me too.
I don't need jump scares. I don't need Friday to the 13th slasher movies. I need just foggy, dark
Yeah,
environments to
uh huh.
want to watch that kind of stuff.
I agree completely. But moving along here, we could get sidetracked on movies all night. We're going to move on to the Irish folklore of the werewolf is the Folad or Faylet werewolves of Ireland. The Irish werewolf is different from the Teutonic or European werewolf, as it's really not a monster at all, unlike its continental cousin. This shapeshifter is the guardian and protector of children, wounded men, and lost persons, kind of like the Scottish version there that we were just talking about. Yeah, so it's according to some ancient sources, the Irish werewolves were even recruited by kings in time of war, known in their native land as the Falad or Concroit or Conriet, I guess.
Conriet. Yeah, it's
Conriet, yeah.
a lot of letters for it to sound like that, but
Yeah,
I actually have like to listen to Irish people say it like 50 times today. Phonetic spelling of it.
Yeah, if you try to pronounce it the way it's spelled, it's definitely not Conriet.
Yeah.
But their predatory behavior is typical of the common wolf, not beneath the occasional nocturnal raid, which is interesting.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, there are a ton of great Irish folklore on the Faylat, and like even the ones that were soldiers, there was like a whole kingdom that the king and his men could shapeshift into werewolves and would hire themselves out as mercenaries. There's a lot of good stories in it.
Ironic. It's ironic that you said that too, because I was just watching the new season of Unexplained with William Shatner, and he mentioned in one of the episodes of a medieval king that befriended a werewolf-like creature, and as part of their kinship or their friendship, he would go into battle for the king, and there was like an army of these werewolf creatures that would help I guess this king take over land and whatnot. So
yeah, there's even like one of the tribes in that area, every 7 years a man and a woman would transform into wolves, and for 7 years they had to live that way, and if they lived to the end of the 7 years, they reverted back to human form, and 2 others from their tribe became wolves. Yeah, there's some really good folklore and stories in there. I mean, some of it, really could be kind of sort of true. Like we were talking, like, the berserker type ideas, or the eaters of the dead from 13th Warrior. These people that dressed as bears and ate the flesh of their victims. So people started to think they were like bears, and even some people have said, "Oh, it was Bigfoot."
Right. Everything ends up being Bigfoot.
Yeah. So the Faylat being a man or a woman that shapeshifts into a wolf, and again is often the protector of guardians of others rather than the unthinking, bloodthirsty creature.
Right.
Now, here's one of the things. Wolves were hunted to extinction in Ireland, but at one point the area was called, amongst many people, Wolfland. And that goes up until like the Middle Ages, and that was due to the amount of wolves that were roaming.
Interesting.
And they do feature predominantly, like we were talking about, in Irish folklore, with stories of people transforming, and like even the wolf transformation passing through generations of families. There was one really good, I'm sorry, and this isn't even in the notes. There was a farmer who went out looking for 2 of his prized cattle. He got way out there. It's getting dark. He finds a house. The family invites him in. Well, the woman of the house invites him in, says, "Hey, you can stay here tonight. I'll feed you." Well, then 3 males come into the house, and the guy knows something isn't right with the three of them, the way their eyes are and stuff like that. And he's like, well, I should probably get going. I could probably make it home. And they're like, no. And then all of a sudden they transform, three of them transform into wolves. And the leader of the pack of wolves realizes, he says to the guy, you once saved a wolf cub and pulled splinters from its leg and nursed it back to health, didn't you? And the guy said, yeah. Well, the werewolf was the wolf cub that he saved.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So he's like, look, you stay tonight, you eat, you sleep, we'll make sure you get home safely. The farmer wakes up in his field the next morning on a bale of hay, gets up and thinks, oh, I must have passed out or something, and it was all a dream. And when he looked around, his two prized cattle weren't there, but instead there was three prized sized cows. And he thought, oh, they must have came from a neighbor's farm or something like that. And the cows were trying to walk away, and there was a wolf guarding the exit, so they couldn't pass him.
No, that's
awesome. They basically brought him three cows for saving the wolf cub when it was a cub. Or a pup.
Yeah.
And the guy, this is how ingrained in the folklore these werewolf type beings are in Irish and even in Scotland.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Well, Pennsylvania actually has so many werewolf tales that they even have kind of like a local term of the for the ghost of a werewolf is the spook wolf. The red dog fox is a Pennsylvania werewolf or spook wolf tale, or perhaps a were fox tale. From around Brandywine Creek, a young red-haired man named Gil Trudeau was taken by the U.S. forces as a guide during the Revolutionary War. And the troops started to notice that Gil would disappear. And in his absence, they'd see this wolf-sized red fox roaming around camp. And they began to call it the red dog fox. And one night, a guard shot the creature, and the soldiers found it the next day. And as the fox was lying there dying, it started to transform back into the shape of Gil. And some people still see the ghost of the red dog fox in that area today, which is pretty awesome.
And it even basically created a song out of it, which was "Turn back the clock, the red dog fox waits in the woods, howls with the wolves. Turn back the clock, the red dog fox, he follows you wherever you go under the full moon. He hunts for food, he won't hurt you, the red dog fox. In the silver light, his red hair shines. Look in his eyes, you will know them well. Oh, leave him be, let him run free. In the night breeze, the red dog fox, you knew his name before he changed. He walked with you across the hills. He was a man, just as I am. You sat with him, the red dog fox. He turned away. His skin he changed, but he did not shed his hair so red. He tried to run. You raised your gun. The man is dead. The fox walks on.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yes, and
I wish you would have actually sang it though.
I wanted to get the girls to sing it and then do the voice thing on it, like
that would have been cool.
Echo effect. But
yeah.
That
would have been really cool.
Yeah, that'll be on our greatest hits album.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a comment there. Chad, cool shirt. Too bad I already beat you to the punch and already said about how cool his shirt was. But indeed, your shirt is cool.
I was gonna say, well, she was the one that bought it for me for my birthday. She bought it for me my birthday, which is 2 months away, but she gave it to me now because I don't like surprises. But it's a very cool Keith Haring piece of artwork.
Yeah, that one's awesome. I want one just because my birthday's coming up too. Just for fun.
Billabong or one of them licensed So I'm pretty sure that's what this is. And they
I know
license.
H&M, that H&M store has a bunch of Keith
Yeah, I
Haring
think
stuff.
it's probably the Billabong stuff they're selling.
Mhm.
They have licensed a whole bunch of his artwork. We saw it over the summer at Ron John's down in Florida.
Hmm.
But they didn't have anything like super cool like this.
That is awesome. So now we talked a little bit about werewolves and the folklore in Scotland and Ireland and stuff like that. So now we're going to kind of shift gears here, no pun intended, and we're going to talk about cursed objects. But first, we need to kind of examine the definition of the word curse.
Yeah.
Chad?
So, looking at the word curse and using a dictionary for a definition here, it's a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. An example would be she put a curse on him.
Which is typical.
You're married. I'm married. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. We get cursed quite often.
I'd like to be able to sleep in my nice bed.
That's right. Let's not get cursed, right? But hi, Cindy. Thanks for joining in too. She's been commenting here. So we're going to talk about one of the things that or one of the cursed objects, I guess you could say, is I don't know if you call it an object.
Well, I mean the actual physical paper.
Yeah, I guess it could be. Yes. So we're talking about a took, which is Inuit for grandfather. And it's the name of an unfilmed American screenplay. So I guess the screenplay would be the object.
Yeah.
And it was intended to be a film adaptation based on the 1963 novel The Incomparable Atuk by Canadian author Mardacy Richler. And it's essentially a fish out of water comedy of a proud, mighty Inuit hunter trying to adapt to life in the big city with satirical elements on racism, materialism, and popular culture.
Yeah, this film adaptation was planned to be in the beginning of the 1970s by Norman Jewson, who had purchased the film rights, and again, then another adaptation was set to have been shot in 1988. Although numerous Hollywood film studios have shown interest in producing the film over the years, it remains unfilmed, and basically the whole entire project is in development hell.
Well, an urban legend claims that a curse has killed all of the actors who have shown an interest in the lead roles. And ironically, these actors include John Belushi, Sam Kinison, John Candy, Chris Farley, and even others who were planning to be in the film or associated to the late leads who had read scripts in their presence, such as Michael O'Donoghue and Phil Hartman, which this is kind of weird. I mean, there's a lot of SNL alumni there that are tied to that, Belushi, Farley, Hartman, but Kennison and Candy. So, I mean, obviously they were going after some big name comedians to go for that lead.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, they're all kind of similar body type comedians.
Yep. Yeah. So, oh God, yeah. They're all that kind of like heavy set, chunky comedian,
Yeah. And even one or two people that actually worked on rewrites for the script have had like really strange deaths or have been murdered.
No way.
Yeah, like one of the guys who was doing one of the rewrites, I think it was around the time that Kinison was attached to the project. He was working on rewrites in the script, and he was like murdered down in Florida, and it was like some kind of like mistaken identity as being somebody else involved in like some kind of nightclub business or something like that. And he ended up getting like shot, like going to his car or something like that. And like they tried torturing the car. and it didn't burn up, and they found the guy shot in it. But yeah, he was just like some like screenwriter friend of Kinnison's that was like helping with rewrites and
Good
stuff
Lord.
like that, and he ended up getting murdered. Other people just have those weird accidents.
Yeah, which is bizarre. Like I'm actually afraid to try and read anything about that. You know what I mean? Because of I'm very superstitious when it comes to this stuff too. So I wouldn't even want to get myself anywhere near that this supposed curse. But I'm wondering what it is about it that has this haunting attachment.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's no like direct, um, it's like you don't hear any story of somebody who, like, some like two partners wrote the script and one of them stole the script from the other one and cut him out of the business end of it. Like, you don't
Yeah,
hear that
and
part
and,
of it.
and
It's
yeah,
just,
the other person's like, oh, I want this to happen to you if you
yeah,
go forward with it or whatever. Yeah, or anybody who touches this is going to be
yeah.
cursed.
I mean, it
But
just
yeah,
seems
that's,
like,
that's bizarre.
yeah, like it just seems like everybody who does kind of get positioned in being the lead ends up, you know, meeting an ill-timed fate. I mean, Belushi died young,
Hmm.
believe, and I think it was a drug overdose. Sam Kinison was killed by a drunk driver. John Candy, heart attack, I believe. Chris Farley was a drug related.
Overdose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hartman, I
Um,
think, was shot by his wife or something like that,
Phil
right?
Hartman, who was shot by his wife, who was on drugs.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely that connection. I mean, Kennison was a big drug addict and alcoholic and stuff like that. Belushi, same thing. Candy supposedly was
I would
into
probably say when he
drugs.
was, yeah, I'd say when he was younger, he probably was. But like, like we said though, it's all the same body type comedian,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and also like Belushi partying hard, living hard, Kinnison partying hard, living hard.
Yeah.
John Candy was older, but probably did his fair share of partying hard, living hard. He came up in
Yeah.
that 70s, 80s comedy scene.
Yeah. I think
Farley,
Candy had a heart attack, right? He was in his 40s, I think.
I believe it was a heart attack for
Yeah.
Candy, but then like Farley was partying hard, and
Mm-hmm. He was in his late 30s, I think, wasn't he?
I think so. He wasn't super old yet.
Yeah. Or no, maybe he was like 33. I don't know. I know it was 30 something, which still is very young. But
Yeah, I mean,
so I mean that is, I don't know. That's bizarre. You have a screenplay based off of a novel, and there's this odd string of deaths to all the people that touched it.
yeah,
I don't know. Well, and Cindy brings up a good point there. Fame seems to be a curse of sorts by itself. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with fame and notoriety and all that stuff, there's too many pressures and whatnot. And a lot of people can't cope or can't deal with that. And they rely on other things to kind of be their escape. And it ends up bad. But so the next object that we're going to be jumping onto is still, I guess, in a way related to Hollywood. In a sense, we're going to be talking about the actor James Dean's race car, which was called Little Bastard of all names. I mean, that's not the nicest name to call a car. So, I mean, obviously, many of you out there know James Dean's career as an actor and a racer. But his life was cut tragically short on September 30th in 1955 when his said car, Little Bastard, it was a Porsche 550 Spider, and it was involved in a catastrophic collision on the way to a race meeting. Though Dean was killed instantly, his Little Bastard car would go on to cause considerably more trouble.
yeah. So this involves the original Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm.
So basically, the Little Bastard had caused upset almost from the moment he bought the car. A week before the fatal crash, he meets up with British actor Alec Guinness in Los Angeles. Of course, Alec Guinness being the original Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mhm.
And Guinness said Guinness wrote in his biography that he had this ominous feeling when he saw the car, and he said the car looked sinister to me, exhausted, hungry, feeling a little ill-tempered in spite of Dean's kindness. And he basically said he heard. I'll go back and read the actual quote here. I heard myself saying in a voice I could hardly recognize as my own, "Please never get in it. If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." So, like, this car clearly had an aura of its own. That
Jeez.
Obi-Wan Kenobi was pointing this out. And I just like to refer to him as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it was the Force that was actually telling him, just speaking through him.
If I could do an old Obi-Wan Kenobi voice, Alec Guinness Kenobi voice.
Please never get in it. If you get in the car, you'll be found dead this time next week. That's my poor attempt at original Obi's voice.
It was better than I would have got to. But, and Dean left, he laughed it off. And he said about preparing this car for for this race that was coming up with a Porsche mechanic, Ralph Witherich, and enlisting stuntman Bill Hickman to help him out. And the original plan was to tow Little Bastard to this race. But the Porsche mechanic felt it would be better for Dean to get used to the Spider and run the engine in.
Mm-hmm.
And on that fateful Friday, Witherich sat next to Dean while Hickman followed with his truck and trailer. Police pulled over the convoy and issued a pair of speeding tickets just outside of Bakersfield. It didn't slow Dean down one bit. And basically, Dean was barreling down Route 466 at an estimated 85 miles per hour when a young Cal Poly student named Donald Turnipseed, driving a Ford Tudor, decided to make a sudden turn onto Route 41. The impact sent the Ford almost 40 feet down the road, ejected Witherich from the Porsche, and Dean was pronounced dead on arrival at Paseo Robles War Memorial Hospital at 6:20 p.m.
Jesus. And, well, despite being declared a total loss by the insurance company, the car was sold, and, it was sold on and would continue to cause carnage wherever, or even parts of it, went. So it wasn't just the car itself. It was parted out and still had some interesting goings on, which I'm sure Chad will talk about right now.
Yeah, we're going to get into the list of things that have happened with those
That's
parts. Right. So Dr. William Esrich bought the Porsche from a salvage yard in Burbank and proceeded to strip it for parts. He installed the Porsche engine into his Lotus race car, then loaned the transmission and suspension parts to fellow doctor and racer Terry McHenry. Esrich crashed his Lotus at the 1956 Sonoma Sport Car race, but he survived. McHenry wasn't so lucky. He hit a tree and was killed in the same race, and the curse of Little Bastard gained strength.
Well, shortly after the crash, publicity monger and self-proclaimed king of customs, George Barris, bought the Spider, promising to rebuild it. When the mangled frame was found to be beyond recovery, Barris chose to capitalize on the car's notoriety.
Yeah. So the Porsche was loaned to the Los Angeles chapter of the National Safety Council. And from 1957 to 1959, it went on a gruesome tour of car shows, movie theaters, bowling alleys. In I guess a lot of you guys remember those things that they used to do, like outside the school when you're a junior or senior in high school. Don't drink and drive, and they'd have the mock-up car.
Yeah.
Well, this was like a much bigger version of that. They would, like they said, they would go to movie theaters, bowling alleys, car shows, and, don't speed, don't drink and drive, don't,
Yeah.
and this was,
Which is it is kind of gruesome if you think about it, because of all the people that had passed and in the ways they passed and stuff like that. And they're just going to like showboat. Well, like they were saying, he's a publicity monger, just touring around making money off this, being like, oh yeah, these people all died because of speeding and this and that. And
well, this was the National Safety Council.
Mm-hmm.
He loaned the car to them, so this was a government agency that was using this car.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it wasn't necessarily him. It was the council. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, if you think about it, you have one of the most famous actors in America at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and even to this day, I mean, he's still because of his life being cut short, is such a remembered actor for the few roles he did have. Mm-hmm. Also, big fan of the Martha Lights, James Dean. We talked about that in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that. What better to make teenage kids realize like drag racing isn't good and road racing isn't good when you have the coolest man in America dies and here's the car he died in.
Right.
Like here's what's left of his car, and he was a racer / actor. So it makes a lot of sense. It's a great publicity stunt. You're already up to 2 dead people on this car though.
3. Right. Oh no, because that's right. The one guy survived.
One doctor survived. One doctor who had the suspension parts in the transmission ends up hitting the tree and dying.
Well, what about the dude that was in the car with Dean?
I've never been able to find anything past that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, he was ejected from the car. I kind of assume he died, but you never
final confirmation.
Yeah, and I wasn't really going to look up his obit to try to find a German national obit. But so in March of 1959, while this is in storage in Fresno, the car mysteriously catches fire. Okay, it's in storage.
Right.
It mysteriously catches fire. Here's the problem. It suffers remarkably little damage. 2 of the tires melted and some of the paint. And fortunately, the fire didn't spread to the other vehicles in storage.
What?
So the car just magically catches fire.
And if it's able to burn hot enough to melt 2 tires, singe paint, how in God's name? Well, first of all, how the hell did that thing catch fire if it wasn't run and it was just sitting in storage?
Yeah.
That's baffling question number 1. But number 2 is for it to burn hot enough to melt tires, and all it really had aside from the melted tires was singed paint.
Yeah.
That's what blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's completely weird, and it doesn't spread.
Right.
So it burns and goes out.
It's almost like spontaneous combustion on people where, only certain parts would burn, or only the body would burn, but like the furniture you're sitting on, nothing.
Yeah, and I never know how I feel about that whole subject.
Spontaneous human combustion?
Yeah. It was a lot bigger when we were younger.
Yeah. And then for some reason it just burned out.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
But so yeah, I mean it's a super mysterious. Now, I mean, R2.
Yeah. Lily texted me.
Yeah. So I mean, it's super weird. Also, could somebody have been messing with it? That kind of stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So meanwhile, Barris had sold a pair of tires from the 550, Both reportedly blew out at the same time, causing the new owner to careen off the road.
This cannot be
So,
coincidence.
yeah, like, but think about it. 2 of the tires melt in the
Right.
fire in '59. He
Yep.
sold the other 2 tires, they blow out,
Right.
causing the car to go off-road.
And what are the odds that 2 of them blow at the same time? You know, like
Yeah.
that just doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, 2 burn, 2 blow, there's gotta be something there, like fire and wind.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just so weird that those 2 ends of it.
Hmm.
Then, the car was is said to have fallen off a display while on show in Sacramento, breaking the hip of a bystander.
Good Lord.
Yeah, like, um, it I mean, if the thing's not cursed, it's pretty suspicious all this stuff happened to it.
Yeah, like that's what I said. This can't be coincidence because I mean, there's another thing here where the spider also reportedly fell on and killed George Barkis, the driver who transported it to a road safety expo.
Mhm.
First of all, what the hell is this thing on that it's so shitty that it's fallen down on people? You know what I mean? Aye, aye, aye.
Yeah, I mean, you're already, you know, what are we about? At least 2 to 3 deaths, a broken
Mm-hmm.
hip, a
Mm-hmm.
mysterious fire,
Mm-hmm.
a car accident, at least, you know, 2 to 3 car accidents tied to parts from the car,
Yeah.
you know. So now, basically, again, this is one of those ones, like I said, spontaneous combustion was much bigger when we were kids. You don't really hear of anything of Little Bastard anymore. Well, here's why. Finally, after all these things happen, the
Mm-hmm.
Porsche is rumored to have disappeared from a sealed boxcar in 1960 while en route from Miami to Los Angeles. Now, of course, some believe that Barris Ever the Showman fabricated the whole story as a way to keep the car's mystique alive.
I could see that.
I could see that, but also keeps the mystique alive. But like I just said, it was a lot bigger when we were kids. Now you don't hear about it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to have the number 6 spark plug from that car was in? I don't want to be mean, but was in Dale Earnhardt's car at Daytona when he crashed into the wall after having the heart attack. Like, you would want. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't want to throw Dale in there. Praise Dale, raise hail. Um, but you'd want that little bit every so often to just remind people of the cursed car.
Right.
And of course, somebody offers $1 million reward for information back in 2005, but of course, Little Bastard's whereabouts remain unknown.
Hmm.
And Barris himself now gone, and no sign of the car for 60 years. So Barris has passed away. The car is still missing after 60 years. So
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just, you put $1 million bounty on this thing. Somebody's gonna creep out of the woodwork, and say something.
Well, here's the thing: you put $1 million out there, and think about it. A lot of these guys that were involved in that race, sport car scene,
Mm-hmm.
they never saw $1 million in their life. And if they knew Barris or were part of the whole, hey, we're going to put it in this box car, but then we're going to switch the box car at the thing, and then we're going to take that box car and hide it on this property that he owns in, Miami, and the boxcar that goes to Los Angeles is empty.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a one-person job. So somebody knew, like, hey, we actually switched out that boxcar. I drove that boxcar to this address in Hialeah, and it was a property Barris owned. Maybe you want to look there.
Yeah, yeah.
For $1 million, if I knew where the car was for $1 million, I'd tell you.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. There isn't much I wouldn't do for $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Cindy actually brings up a really good question was there any kind of history about the car before James Dean got it? Where did the little bastard originate? Like where what's the origin stories of the little bastard? That's what I'd like to know. That's actually a really great question.
Yeah, I don't really know much prior to him owning it. I'm just going to do a quick search, see if I can find anything on it before him owning it.
There you go, Cindy. We're doing this live on air. Research.
Yeah, I mean, definitely didn't hear.
It's got to have some sort of a weird attachment or weird origin story that would cause this. I mean, like you said, there's multiple deaths, multiple accidents, multiple injuries, and it's all spontaneous fires, all related to this vehicle. It's no way, shape, or form a coincidence.
Okay, so it was a brand new Porsche 550 Spider, bought a week earlier to replace his slower Porsche 356 Speedster.
So the 356 was jealous, put a curse on little bastard, and that's how it happened.
Well, and he nicknamed it Little Bastard.
Dean did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if even brand new, where was it built? What I don't know. It's almost kind of like that. What was that? Stephen Christine,
mm-hmm.
the ghost car or whatever that would try and kill people that messed with the owner and stuff.
Well, it's like my dad's Firebird. That thing's cursed.
Yeah.
That thing
every time
through so many different freaking problems. I mean, takes it to get it painted, and it comes out two different colors.
Well, then you were saying about there was something up on the top shelf or something like that, or up on the loft.
The piece of chrome that we threw away, all the chrome that was on it got new chrome for it, and somehow a piece of chrome came bouncing off the shelf that was above a door, which had nothing on it that could rattle it free. Somehow bounced across it and landed and took a chunk out of the hood.
Yep. Right after he got it back from being painted?
After he got it back from being painted, or the fact that he had it like a day. It was parked out in front of his house, and 3 doors up from his house was a dentist. A little old lady came out, got in her Saturn, swears she was in drive, was in reverse, and drove over the hood of a 69 Firebird with a Saturn. hit the thing so hard it kicked it out into the street.
Good Lord.
She ended up driving over the hood of it. Yeah, that car was cursed. I mean, engines, having custom built engines for it, paint job issues like just, things snapping that shouldn't snap.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I would say that's definitely a cursed object on the personal side.
Yeah.
But again, to Cindy's point, it kind of begs the question: what's the origin story of the Firebird? Like, where did it come from? Who had it before? What kind of bad juju was put into that thing? Even the little bastard. I mean, maybe it was a disgruntled line worker that had a bad day or whatever, and whoever gets this car, I hope it fucking kills them, or you know what I mean, whatever. You never know. You never know. Words are powerful, man. Words can manifest lots of things. So who knows? Who knows?
Well,
Hence
and
the whole curse theory,
yeah, we'll put it this way: one part of the car, the transaxle,
Mhm.
sold at auction for $382,000 a couple of years ago.
Jesus. So if you had almost the whole thing intact, not brand new, but intact, minus all the pieces that were sold, you'd probably fetch more than $1 million for that thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you had a good chunk of what was left of it, I mean, you'd have some private collector, somebody like that would just want it to say they own Little Bastard, the cursed car of James Dean.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have probably some James Dean enthusiast person who'd want to pay $1 million if they had $1 million to have, it's like buying something of Elvis's at that point. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this is Elvis's, 44 Magnum or 357 that he used to shoot the TV with. People would pay, an arm and a leg for that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if I'd want it. I don't think I'd want any part of that, just because of
I was just
the history
reading one of these guys. Basically, it was a guy who was a race car driver back in that time frame, Bob Devlin. He said, you couldn't pay me to get behind the wheel of that or get in a vehicle that had any parts from that. He said, I'm old for a good reason.
Yeah, right, for sure. I don't know, man. Well, that was two pretty interesting cursed objects or items. The screenplay and James Dean's car, and prior to that, we talked about some werewolf folklore in the Celtic Isles. Good show.
Yeah. So OS there said, do you two believe in curses?
Yeah, I do. I believe in all kinds of shit, man.
Again, that's like spontaneous combustion for me. I don't know if I necessarily do, but I don't necessarily don't.
Right. It would take a lot of convincing, but you take like the James Dean car.
Yeah.
I'd say absolutely.
Yeah. Like the James Dean car, the script, stuff like that, or the screenplay.
Yeah.
Like I said, you named the 4 actors, and we said similar body type, party lifestyle, running it at both ends.
It's almost like that screenplay was looking for certain, or maybe casting director, what I mean? Because they're looking for this certain role, but
but that certain role is this type of person. This type of person naturally shortens their life expectancy by, X number of years. A car, like I said, the Fireburn's cursed.
Yeah.
Do I believe in curses? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen examples that a lot of coincidences could go into, something being
right.
cursed.
Yeah.
But also you have to give it power for it to be real.
Right. Actually, Ryan brings up another good thing about Bruce Lee's fighting form, like just Bruce Lee in general.
Oh God, Bruce Lee's such a fucking joke.
Well, but no, think about it, like him, the Lee family. They were all cursed. Bruce Lee, and then Brandon Lee, and the Curse of the Dragon, wasn't it?
Well, Shannon Lee's still alive. Linda Lee's still alive.
Maybe it's the Lee men.
What is one bad accident and a possible drug-related death?
Coincidence, I guess.
Yeah. Actor shot on movie set by prop gun. Just happened this past year.
Yeah, true. With that Rust or whatever with Baldwin.
Somebody taking experimental non-approved treatments for issues magically somehow dies.
Yeah. But it's just another example of a curse, you know.
Yeah, and Bruce Lee was not a fighter. Let's not confuse that.
I'm not saying he is, but
yeah. Sorry to break.
But there are some things out there that no, there are some things out there that are bizarre and hard to explain. I mean, a lot of things you could look into, like you said with the Bruce Lee thing. It's very you know, like you said, you're taking an experimental drug that wasn't run through its paces. Okay, you're a prop gun. All right, you're literally putting, you know, your life in somebody else's hands at that point, because is it a real bullet? Isn't it? I don't know. But you take the James Dean car throughout all those years, the fact that it was pieces from that actual machine. And these people are, you know, dying, literally dying from it. And the goddamn thing falls down and on top of people. Like it's a death machine. Yeah. It's designed to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't explain that one to me. Like I would say that is definitely not coincidence, that there's something attached to that.
But, yeah. I mean, it falls off of a stand. Like you think, I mean, yeah, I understand it's not modern day where you got to stay so many feet away from these displays, but I can't imagine you'd be standing super close to this display, you know, even back then. Like,
yeah,
you'd think there'd be some space between you and it, and all of a sudden it just comes off and breaks some dude's hip. It falls off a car carrier and kills the guy driving the car carrier.
Yeah, that's cursed. That is a cursed piece of metal. But anyways, that brings us to the end, we're past the hour on this Halloween evening. I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's show, and we thank every one of you for tuning in and listening and commenting and spending your Halloween evening with us tonight. I hope you guys all had a very safe and enjoyable Halloween. And Chad, thank you for putting the show together tonight. This was awesome. I was really looking forward to going through this. I loved the folklore of the werewolves and the cursed items. Like, they're head scratchers for sure. So as always, man, thank you for everything, and thanks for hanging out with me tonight.
Yeah. Thank everybody for watching, and hope it was at least interesting.
I found it very interesting. All right, everybody, we will see you in 2 weeks, and we'll be back at our normal time at 8:30. And we thank you guys for hanging out a little bit later than normal, because we wanted to be able to enjoy trick-or-treating tonight ourselves. And Ryan, I will watch Dog Soldiers. I'll check that out. Actually, maybe I'll watch that tonight. So yeah, until next time, we thank you all, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. I don't know what the topic is going to be, but we'll let you guys know as soon as we find out. Hopefully I could convince my friend Jay to come on the show. He actually lives in part of the Bridgewater Triangle where the King George War had happened and everything. And I'm trying, he and I are both very busy with work. We work together. So I'm trying to get him to come on the show. So maybe we could have him on. If not, we're definitely going to find another great topic to share with everybody. So until then, thank you for tuning in. Happy Halloween. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Good night.